I am Sumi Malik, a city planner. I plan for bicycle, pedestrian, and transit and work on the challenges of climate change. I am also a steering committee member. Thank you to Oregon Wild and Theory Gang for sponsoring this event. And thank you all to this crowd for all of your generous donations and purchasing of merchandise, which pays 100% for this event. Last year was about taking a stand against the dismantling of our institutions and celebrating the virtues of science. Since then, we have seen the Trump administration lift a ban on new coal leases on public lands, announce intention to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement by 2020, and gag the CDC from using the words science-based and evidence-based. This is the CDC that cannot use these words. He approved the Dakota Access Pipeline, and the list goes on. The Flint crisis continues. It is more important than ever that we stand up in support of science and make our voices heard. I hope that you chant with me. What does democracy look like? This is what democracy looks like. What does democracy look like? This is what democracy looks like. What does democracy look like?
This is what democracy looks like.
We look to our future to elevate and restore the position of science. This year, we want to make sure that students know they too are scientists. We have a program that we hope will spark curiosity about science and demonstrate its power to students, including how to address our most pressing issues, such as climate change and cancer. It is for this reason our first speaker today is Arnab Das, a high school student. Arnab is a senior at Jesuit High School who has received recognition from MIT and the Center of Excellence in Education as one of the top 80 young scientists in the world at the 2017 Research Science Institute. Arnab says everyone can be a scientist. Please welcome to the stage Arnab Das.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Arnab Das. I'm a senior at Jesuit High School. And one of the ways I wanted to open this is a lot of times I wanted to show that science is really a force of unification. And because, a lot of the times we don't acknowledge where that ignorance comes from for those who don't, fully immerse themselves in it. And I think it's because science is often seen in, popular culture as perpetuated as this barrier of exclusivity, because we don't normally see, science as, presented in terms of, a way that everybody can access. So this is kind of the point that I'm going to try to hammer through, that science is really a force of unification for all. And how I'm going to go about this is, I'm going to start anecdotally presenting some of the research that I've done and show that just by virtue of being different people, we all have our own unique different perspectives. And these unique different perspectives, just by virtue of being different people, allow us to explore science on our own unique creative perspectives and actually solve different global issues. So one of the examples that I want to present is this creative artistry that I found through one scientific research project that I was looking at. And what it was that it was a detection system for cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes, all in their very early stages so that we could cure them before they manifested into unique diseases. And this is what a project I was working on my freshman year of high school. And what I was looking at one day is how I was able to make these very high surface area small particles called nanoparticles. And essentially what I was trying to do is amplify signatures for different chronic and degenerative diseases so we could detect them. And what I found was I could not find any source of inspiration to come about solving this problem. But one day when I was just looking at clouds, and this sounds very romanticized, but it's going to hammer home a point that this unique perspective that all of us can uniquely come up with is a source of unification for science at large. And so I was looking at clouds one day, and I kind of saw that one steric chain, which means a chain of the cloud that's kind of held together in place, and then there's these other mobile chains of the cloud that are kind of free to move. and they stack on top and form this like three-dimensional network of sorts. So I took this analog to different kind of polymer chemistries, and I saw that it actually indeed increased the functionality of my system like by hundreds of fold. So this is an example of a type of creative artistry that is found in science that even those outside of conventional exclusivity, because like we conventionally see professors, like the image of someone Einstein here, putting test tubes and mixing out fluids and getting like a magic chemical on the other end, but we don't really see that it can actually be done by everybody. So what I also want to hammer home is another perspective I was looking at was with a new kind of cancer therapy and so what I was looking at was these forms of nanoparticles that could be injected into the bloodstream selectively. And essentially one of the things that we can't get like kind of selective cancer treatment. But what I found is that if we kind of look at how dominoes fall and how like the first domino falls and like the rest of them fall and kind of target it from a root cause and kind of inject the nanoparticles in a way to kind of inductively form from the ground up like cancer killing itself, this is kind of like the new kinds of perspectives that we can gain from anywhere. And I think what's so cool about this unification in terms of the different perspectives that we can offer is that since by virtue of just being different people, we all have our different creative perspectives that we can apply to science and solve problems in new kinds of ways. And this is, I think, the fresh insight that we need in order to tackle the next generation of problems for the future. And I think is what we need to counter the ignorance that's centered around science, because normally this barrier of exclusivity is there and that's what perpetuates this ignorance. But if we see that just by virtue of being different people, these creative perspectives that we can all offer to further science, that will ultimately bring us all together. And I think that kind of fundamental unity that's there is what the most beautiful thing about getting interested in humanity is, and that's what science represents to me. Thank you very much.
Our next scientist to take the stage is Allison Alduas, PhD and Senior Freshwater Scientist with the Nature Conservancy. Yay, Nature Conservancy! They're also in the back over there. They do amazing work. She is based in Portland and works across Oregon and in Gabon, Central Africa. Her work includes research and conservation of groundwater-dependent biodiversity, wetland restoration, and modeling freshwater systems. Allison works to translate science into policy and will make the case for water quality. Please join me in welcoming Allison.
I believe in a world where nature can be sustained in all its wonder, and people can also thrive. From when I was a really young girl, I've always known that I wanted to be a scientist. But it wasn't until when I was 23 years old that I realized what kind of scientist. And what happened was I was a volunteer at a national park in the southern part of South America. And I was out with a field crew doing work to track animal movements across this amazing national park when we captured a very small leopard. This is an animal called a Joffrey's cat. And because the cat was very scared and we needed to collect some data on this wild Joffrey's cat, we needed to sedate her. And so after we had collected all of our measurements and installed some tracking devices, the lead wildlife biologist decided that somebody needed to stay behind and keep this animal warm while the sedative wore off, because it was very cold out that day. And so being the junior member of this team, I was assigned the task of getting into a sleeping bag with this wild Joffrey's cat and keeping her warm. So over the next hour, I had this amazing opportunity to experience this beautiful wild animal up close. And it was during that hour, with the Andes Mountains as a backdrop, that I decided that a career in conservation science was really my calling. Now fast forward 28 years, my career has taken many twists and turns. And ultimately I decided on a career in freshwater science because I feel so connected to water, to rivers and lakes and wetlands. But as I said at the beginning, I believe in a world where nature can be sustained in all its wonder, and yet people can also thrive. I believe in a world where we have healthy wetlands and healthy rivers, but we also have vibrant communities. But you know, we face many challenges with achieving that vision. So for example, in Oregon and across the West, we have many rivers that run too low in the summertime, and that stresses our native fish and frogs and mussels. Upper Klamath Lake in southern Oregon experiences blooms of noxious blue-green algae every summer, and that cuts off oxygen to many endangered fish. And groundwater levels across the state in many of our aquifers are declining. And this stresses the plant and animal communities that depend on that groundwater, but it also places an incredible financial burden on our many farmers and families that are shouldered with the costs of having to deepen in their wells. Not only that, but we face a growing global population, and in the future, we will face even greater challenges with a changing climate. And yet, I believe that both nature and people can thrive. So to achieve this vision, we do need the social license, and we need the political will to not sacrifice one at the expense of the other, but we also need to work as a global community to bring forward our best science, our best ingenuity, our best creativity to find 21st century solutions to our greatest problems. We need state-of-the-art climate models and hydrologic models so that we can understand what our stream flow will look like in the future. We need ecological studies so that we can understand how much water a red-legged frog needs to lay its eggs and to complete its life cycle from tadpole to breeding adult. We need high-tech water delivery and tracking systems in our cities and on our farms so that we know how much water we're using. And we need efficient systems to make the most profitable use out of every drop. We need tools to help us to identify the habitats that fish and water birds need and the challenges that they face both here in Oregon and in those far-flung habitats where they migrate. At the Nature Conservancy, we are committed to working with everyone who cares about our water supplies and our freshwater ecosystems. We're committed to using the best science to find solutions to these very difficult freshwater challenges. And of course, we don't only work on fresh water, we work across the spectrum of natural resources. So for example, last summer, we endured weeks of smoke in Portland because of unnaturally severe fires that were burning forests across the West. But the Nature Conservancy is leading a nationwide effort to restore those forests. And in Oregon, we have a plan to restore more than 6 million acres of dry, fire-prone forests to make them more resilient to the future fires. In eastern Oregon, millions of acres of sagebrush habitat are critical to the iconic sage grouse. But their habitat is also being degraded by unnaturally large fires. Scientists from the Nature Conservancy are developing new seed technologies that can help plants recolonize areas that have been devastated by those fires. And across the Pacific Northwest, our scientists have mapped out the habitats that are most likely to be resilient to climate change, and we have permanently protected over 40,000 acres of those habitats. So our Our challenges are daunting, and yet, if we bring forward our greatest ingenuity, if we make a commitment to support science education and science literacy, and if we foster the passion in scientists like the high school students who share the stage with me today, I believe that collectively we can build a future where nature and people can thrive together. Thank you.
I am very proud to introduce our next speaker, Ozzy Gonzalez, who is an environmental scientist and architect who specializes in building healthy, prosperous communities that work alongside nature. Ozzy grew up in two cultures, winters in Los Angeles and summers in the fields of Mexico. As a proponent of healthy, culturally diverse, and environmentally responsible cities, Ozzy works across the spectrum of design, policy, and community engagement to bring solutions to our city's greatest environmental, social, and economic challenges. Ozzy, yes, that's something to cheer for. Ozzy is a board member of the Regional Arts and Cultural Council and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the stage, Ozzy Gonzalez.
Hello, everybody. Thanks a lot, Sumi. Thanks a lot to everyone for letting me come out here today. I love science, and I just want to tell you my story and what science means to me. For me, as a 5-year-old in my first day in kindergarten, I knew that I wanted to be a scientist because of math and I. Math and I share a love at first sight. When I was 5 years old, I didn't speak a word of English, and I did not find myself at ease when I was in English, in social studies, in history class, but math was the one place where I could understand. And it speaks to what Arnab mentioned earlier, that science and math are universal around the world. And math was a universal language that I knew I could understand and I could speak with, no matter whether someone spoke English, Spanish, Mandarin, or any other language on earth. So yay for that. And I went on, and I remember as a kid, even in spelling, if I ever wanted to learn to spell a word, when I was early on, I had to say it in Spanish. So book became bo-o-ok, table became tabale, and color was just color, because a lot of times there's something similar. And so I learned to value math as its own language and learn to communicate in math. And I learned to pursue, as a result of my background between the farm and the urban jungle of Los Angeles, I wanted to find what the happy medium was. So I decided to study environmental science, where I get to, thank you, environmental science teaches you about the relationship between human beings and all of the other life support systems on Earth. And that's where I learned not only are human beings nature, but cities are not divorced of the rules of nature either. And we are our own living system. So I went on, and instead of studying the grizzly bear, or the spotted owl, or the red-legged tree frog like so many of my other colleagues, I decided to be an ecologist for human beings. And so I went on to study architecture, where I can design not the bird boxes for the osprey and the eagle, but the bird boxes for human beings inside of the places we live. And it was in that journey that I got to learn about how we thrive as a species, and interestingly enough, as we urbanize around the world, how cities become a place where we can live and thrive, and where our relationship to the other natural systems of the world can be felt and smelled and seen and touched. Because that's the kind of living system that we deserve, and it's what we get when we design ourselves into it. So I thought, why not get into architecture? Why not find our common way of living? And why not find the reality that we're facing today? And so I'm here today to share with you a state of our cities, because it's not unique to Portland. What we're experiencing here, the growth, the change, the congestion, the amazing difference that we feel in what our identity is, was, and is becoming. That's what's happening in every city around the world as we grow and as we urbanize. And the rate of change that is due to both the migration of people and the globalization of our ideas, of our businesses, of our institutions, is meaning that our cities are starting to look more and more like one another, and that we have to learn to function not just in our city, but in cities as a whole. And so we are our own network now of human ecology, and our cities need to learn how to meet with nature and meet with our own needs as natural beings to the greatest extent possible. And these are big issues, ladies and gentlemen. These are the issues that are just for those ecologists that are looking at human beings in the places where we spend most of our time. And so I urge you to extend your interest that you bring to all of the other animals on Earth and look at people as your greatest untapped resource, because the math and the scientists are all around the world around us, and it is only our limitations with English or any other individual language that we don't get to cross those lines and get to leverage the common language of math and science that all of us speak. Because in today's global issues, we need perspectives that are bringing innovation, that are bringing diversity of thought, diversity of opinion to the world's problems. And that is why we need science. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
To introduce our next speakers, Andrea Ciotti, bike mechanic and educator with Community Cycling Center, and her student, Cornelius Jefferson, a student at Helensview High School. They will be talking about the center's STEM Education Bike Mechanics program, which is an 11-class program that teaches basic physics through bicycle mechanics to alternative high school students at Helensview High School and Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center and Rosemary Henderson High School. Welcome to the stage, Andrea and Cornelius.
Hi, my name is Cornelius, and I will be talking about the bike shop at Helensview and the Community Cycling Center. So about Helensview Bike Shop, it is a great opportunity if you like to do hands-on projects and fixing bikes. And it fell into my category because hands-on is for me. In the bike shop, we get bikes donated to us from police, So we go, we get bikes donated from us, oh my gosh. Okay, we get bikes donated to us from the police, so we go out and pick a bike to work on. You have to make sure everything gets greased before letting it sit around and rust even more. Once you have done that, you start observing the bike and seeing what is wrong with it. Once you have completed one bike, you move on to the second and finish that bike. On your third bike, you get to keep of your selection, or you could pick a new one to work on. Also, what I like about Helensview is that Andrea comes from the CCC, Community Cycling Center, to help Helensview every Friday and go on bike rides. For example, she also gives us great opportunities to have us go help her at the Community Cycling Center, like the MIT program, Mechanic Intensive Training. And what we do there is go to the Community Cycling Center, and we bring bikes from Helensview to go there to work on. One of Andrea's co-workers and Andrea comes to help us if we need it. It was a great opportunity for Helensview students in the biking program to have fun and engage with other people. And thank you for listening.
Cornelius, how old are you?
I'm 15.
Will you be 16 soon?
Yeah, on June 18th.
Cornelius is an incredible inspiration and an incredible student at Helensview High School and did a great job coming up here today. So science is about solving problems, and I think a large problem that we need to solve is that systems of oppression, such as racial and economic oppression, have been built into our everyday lives, make it so that people of color and people on low incomes suffer first and foremost from climate change. All of us inherited these issues. All of us contribute to these issues, and many of us are trying to find solutions. We don't have all the answers, and we may not solve these problems in our lifetime, but what we can do is create space for young people, such as Cornelius, to explore and innovate so they can expand and build upon our achievements. Our youth have the creativity and resiliency to interrupt oppression and improve our world. I'm Andrea. Sumi introduced me. I am part of, I work for the Community Cycling Center, which is one of Portland's local nonprofit bike shops. We're donation-based, Yeah, I got a supporter up here, a few supporters, thank you, thank you. We are located on 17th and Alberta in Northeast Portland. If you have any more questions, you can talk to me after or talk to Jude at our Community Cycling Center table in the back. And then I mentioned we take donations, so feel free to bring your bicycles by to the cycling center. The program that I'm most excited about is the one that Sumi had talked about, which is our STEM education program, which teaches physics through basic bike mechanics. We use the bicycle as a vehicle for exploration, not only for basic physics and wrenching on bikes, but more importantly as an open space for students to explore problem solving, critical thinking, and collaboration. It also helps develop workforce training skills and on-the-job training, and the importance of this is that it is skills that will improve qualities of life for these youth going forward. A favorite story of mine is about in one of our classes when we were exploring Newton's third law. We had balloons and strings, and we were trying to get the balloons to, go fast and far on the strings. And there was one student, we'll call him Jamal, who was a lone wolf who was working on his own bike and wasn't really invested in being part of a group. But there was one group, group one, we'll call them, who was working on this problem and their balloon just wasn't going fast enough. Well, against his internal compass, Jamal couldn't help himself, and he had solutions. So he came out of working on his own bike and approached the group, and the group took him in, and after a few moments of working, they improved the outcome and the balloon went farther. This is an example of three very important things. One is that students were practicing trying and failing, and they weren't discouraged by failing. They continued to try to improve their outcomes. Thank you. The second is that Jamal overcame some of his isolation and was motivated to give critical input to improve the outcome of the task outside of himself. And three is that the students in the group welcomed Jamal's input and openly collaborated with him and with each other to improve the outcome of the task. This exemplifies not only tenets of STEM education and science, which is why we're here today, but it also says that to overcome problems and barriers, we have to persevere, practice problem solving, and collaborate with others. The Cycling Center is, we are really grateful to be able to work with Rosemary Anderson POIC in New Columbia and Helensview High School, which are two really incredible alternative schools in the Portland area. The students at these schools didn't find success at public schools because public schools don't honor the learning that these students need. Public schools are a little rigid. What these students at these schools need to learn most effectively is to have learning be relevant to their lives and to their livelihoods. They need an environment that meets them where they're at that day and provides as many opportunities for them to be taken care of so that they can engage more fully. Providing space for students that need to account the inherent abilities to achieve and will innovate and to come to fruition. These students are most affected by racial and economic oppression. When given the space to create and problem solve, will make the greatest strides to finding solutions to major issues that affect the health and well-being of us and our planet. Students like Cornelius are going to be the ones that take us where we need to go. So let's give Cornelius a round of applause. Cornelius, what's your dream bike?
My dream bike is a special edition racing bike.
Thank you.
Welcome, Scott.
Perfect. Everybody can hear me all right? All right, well, thank you so much for coming out today to give your voices for science. This is the way systematic change starts. So we need to start here and continue down that road. I'm an ecologist, and I'm the executive director of the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation. And the society promotes conservation by using science. Science is a vital part of our mission. But I didn't get to where I am today in really a traditional way. You know, I spent my teenage years fixing up muscle cars and driving as fast as I could down straight country roads in the Midwest. And then as a young adult, I worked on oil rigs in Wyoming. I bucked logs in Colorado. I worked construction all over the Midwest and Intermountain West. At 25, I went back to school. I did community college first, then an undergraduate, and then a graduate degree. And I had an explicit goal, and that was to use science to inform policy, practice, and law for conservation, for the environment. I was lucky, though, that I had an underpinning of science from an early age. You know, I grew up the youngest of 9 kids. Talk about a big carbon footprint my parents had. My mom was a nurse in World War II. My dad was a fighter pilot in World War II and then went on to stay in the Air Force for 30 years. Even though neither of them had a background in natural sciences, they encouraged us to read and felt that science was important to us and for society. From an early age, I had a love of animals, and I was really lucky that I had what we called a woodlot about a block and a half from my house. This was trees and meadow that I could go to almost every day when I was a little kid. I spent countless hours turning over rocks, looking for lizards, looking for snakes, catching butterflies by day and fireflies by night. Unfortunately, that woodlot is now all houses. So kids in that neighborhood where I grew up in the Midwest no longer have that opportunity to go see what I did. If I hadn't had that opportunity to explore nature as a kid, would I be doing what I do today? I just don't know. But I can tell you from personal experience that growing up next to a natural area enthused me about nature, and I believe helped me dedicate my life to protecting the environment. In the words of Robert Michael Pyle, noted nature writer and founder of the Xerces Society, as diversity declines in our immediate environs, our radius of reach, we lose the opportunity to become acquainted with nature. And that means we become more alienated from nature, and out of that comes even more apathy. But we can reverse the sense of disconnection in our natural world. When we help nature, we help ourselves. And these natural areas can help our kids, our neighbors, and everybody in our communities to understand conservation, even if it is at a small scale. Remember, many people in our world do not get to go to national parks, national forests. Their nature is in their neighborhoods. And even in urban neighborhoods and suburban areas, you can find natural systems and you can help restore them. Bees, butterflies, beetles, and other insects are all around us. And these animals can open up a whole new world for science to those who become engaged. Pollination, which is vital to life on the planet, happens all around us. Dragonflies eat other insects. That's a predator-prey interaction. And we have incredible food webs right in our backyards and in our local streams. We also know that this type of conservation science background helps people later on to make informed decisions, even their voting patterns. I made it my way back to science because I came to love it as a kid. And many others can do the same if we help them. So go out in nature, go protect your natural area, restore what you have, whether it's your backyard, whether it's a community garden, or whether it is a park. Go out, take your kids, take your community members, go out and see what's there and learn what's there. I will just end to say that the Xerces Society can help. We have many resources to help plan and manage habitat, citizen science opportunities for all ages, and potentially technical assistance if you're working in a public space like a community garden or a park. We can help you. So be sure to visit up there to our table. But most importantly, go out and take your family and friends outside to see what you can learn. And if you're 18 or older, this fall, vote for candidates and issues that help move us in a positive direction. Thank you again for all of you for lending your voice to science.
It is my great pleasure to have on the stage yet again another young scientist as we look to our to our young people for our future. Anushka Nair is a 17-year-old scientist and activist who is passionate about how science can explain the phenomenons of our world. She recently won first place grand award for her work in radiochemistry and artificial intelligence at the International Science and Engineering Fair. Woohoo! Well credentialed already. She does research in computer science, artificial intelligence, and computational biology. In the summer of 2017, Anushka was selected as an intern for the Knight Cancer Institute at OHSU, where she worked on identifying BCR-ABL1 kinase independent mutations. Passionate about women in technology, Anushka's extreme love of science meets her core value of social justice. She founded a nonprofit, Avarsa, that spreads computer science education to girls and minorities in rural areas. Help me welcome to the stage, Anushka.
So hi, my name is Anushka Nair and I'm a junior in high school. I love science. No, not just to the point that I enjoy the occasional cellular respiration, but on a scale of 1 to 5 of nerdiness, 1 being generally socially acceptable, and 5 being basement dwelling, I'm so far into the ground that I can view geology from 10,000 years ago. But my journey from science is what brings me onto the stage with you here today. I now lead an initiative that brings science and engineering and STEM education to girls, fostering a culture of growth, learning, and opportunity. Right now, our statistics of graduation rates of girls in computer science are 18%. Girls and minorities have low rates of graduation in our STEM fields, and by 2025, women will only have 20% of commuting jobs, even though jobs are tripling by that point. We too long have been on the fringes. It is our time, our right to bring women and minority to the center. It is now our time to have STEM education and curriculum be mandatory, to bring our women, our children, and our future to the point that they become our leaders. In middle school, in 7th grade, I was going to be a violinist. And I had A's in all my science classes, but I knew I was gonna be a violinist. But my mom said, no, try the science club. So I walked in, and I saw 20 boys hitting buzzers at 5 seconds when I couldn't even understand the question. So I left. I thought, this isn't something I'm ever gonna do. I can't do it, but I had a mother who's been the most important person in my life who said, no, you're gonna go back. You're gonna stand there and you're gonna learn and you're gonna keep going. And I did. And that was the most important thing that has ever been said to me. My mom lives by the words, boldness is genius. And now we have to be mothers and sisters, fathers and brothers, families and mentors to these children who are our future. Every time that we leave them by the wayside, we ignore our own children, our future leaders. So it is now our time to be the mentors, to be the leaders, to bring about the next generation. So I ask you, please rally for computer science education. If you see a woman or minority who is on the fringes, bring them to the center. Educate, teach, and bring opportunities at miles a minute, and we are the change. Today we are here because we love science, because we want the world to change because of it, and we can't do that until we bring our next generation to the front. So I ask you, is this what you want to do? Is this what we are here today? So Apsara is our initiative under Enough is Enough, which is the non-for-profit that we work. So if you have any advice, any things you want to talk to me about, any resources you can give, because I know all of you have a story, all of you are a resource that you can bring to us, please come talk to me. Please come talk to anybody in the crowd who's here from Enough is Enough, and let's be the future.
It is with my great pleasure I introduce our final speaker for our rally, Rex Burkholder. Rex is a trained biologist, started the bicycling revolution in Portland as a founder of the Bicycle Transportation Alliance, now the Street Trust, is a former Metro councilor and led the passage of Measure 99, which secured outdoor school for all Oregon children. I know outdoor school absolutely sparked my interest in science when I was in 6th grade. And he's also authored this book, The Activist Toolkit, which is available at Powell's. Buy local. Rex, welcome to the stage.
Hey, what I'm going to talk about now is love, beauty, and justice, because that is what our struggle is about. What is beauty, and how does science relate to beauty? Well, science gives you a way to see the world and understand what is going on out there. When you're a little kid and you look underneath a rock and look for bugs, and you start seeing the world as this complex, amazing place, and you have questions, and what do you say? Why? So how do we answer that? We say, let's investigate and see the world, and so you can understand that beauty. And then after you start seeing this amazing place we live in, and doing the outdoor school project, I got to spend a lot of time with 11 and 12-year-olds and their amazing perception of the world. And then they said, we got to take care of this. This is important. I like going in the woods. I like playing outside in the streams and discovering stuff. They learned to love. And then justice is, how do we take this knowledge that we have and make sure our lives are better, our children's lives are better, our neighbors' children's lives, and the people all over the world's lives are better. And we have the tool. And what's the name of that tool? Science. What's the name of that tool? Science. It's a way for us to appreciate, understand, and care for ourselves and the world in an intelligent way. Now, what's the problem here going on in this country right now? What's going on is that people are not rejecting science. I'm sorry, they're not. They say they reject science, but it's not true. They love science when it shows them where to drill for oil, or what chemical they might be able to sell to you. But what they don't want science to do is to tell you, maybe we should make different decisions because justice needs to be served. Because when we keep burning fossil fuels, we will destroy our future. When we put chemicals in our environment without protections for people and without testing them, we destroy our future. These people are not anti-scientists, they are cynics. And they think you will believe that it's better for you to ignore science when it tells them they shouldn't make all that money doing these things. So that's why we're here. And guess what? I want everybody who's sitting down, there's not many of you, but stand up. We're going to get ready to march. We're going to go out there and say science is important for love, for beauty, and for justice. We need science, and we need the information, and we need to move our country back to a place where we trust in facts and knowledge. And that's why we're here today, folks. So let's get ready to march.